I got a lot of shit. And I was really blown away by how bad it was for women musicians. And, that was like the cutest thing ever. Guys would throw stuff at me. I had a AC/DC cover band, a lead singer for an AC/DC cover band, come up to me and tell me that because I was in a band with 2 girls, we were a novelty act. 2 years later, his band opened for my new band, and I walked up to him and said, "Who's the novelty act now? AC/DC cover band." Bikini Kill. That's us before we had a guitar player, actually. That was one of our first shows, and we were still singing about fun stuff like rape and incest, but also about, I had a song called Alien She, and it was about me before I was a feminist, singing to me after I was a feminist, and kind of getting in an argument, and trying to figure out how can those 2 kind of personalities, the one that wants to go to the mall, live with this other person. That's kind of stuff we wrote about. But we would walk into environments that were very straight, white, male dominated and felt very unwelcoming to anybody that wasn't a straight white male. And we would say, we want to transform this space, and we want to make this a space where women feel not only welcome, but that they can enjoy themselves, which was a radical concept, actually, in the underground punk scene in the 90s. We used to ask that girls would come up front, and people were really, really pissed off by that. They're just like, "That's totally fucked up, that's so separatist," and we're like, so what? It's one show. I mean, there's so many spaces that I walk into that are total male spaces that I feel unwelcome in. Why can't there be one space where it's like the girls are the priority, the women are the priority? What is so freaky about that? And also, we were selfishly trying to build a community so we had other girls and women to play with. And that was only going to happen if we had girls and women in the front row who could see how we were playing our instruments and could see how easy it was. We weren't a slick, MTV-ready band. We kind of sounded like crap a lot of times. We didn't always know what we were doing. We wrote songs in the van on the way to the show, and we did it. And in a lot of cases, it worked. And some of the girls that hated our bands so much and thought we sounded like crap are the ones who started the best bands. I think that's pretty interesting. Again, it was pre-internet, so we used to actually hand out the lyrics at every show. We would have not a good sound system like you guys have here, and people couldn't understand what we were singing, and it was really important to us that people understood what the lyrics were and that they were about radical feminism. But also, we kind of wanted girls to know it wasn't a mirage. Because I knew if I walked in and saw a radical feminist band in 1992, I would be like, did that happen? Especially if I've been drinking a little. And then you find this weird flyer in your pocket the next day, and you're like, that really happened. Remember when you get hot, and all the guys got to take their shirts off, and then you had to pull your t-shirt and make it into like a impromptu halter top? Well, I did that on stage, and it was kind of an unsettling mixture of like little girl with kind of a prostitute thrown in there. And it's kind of sketchy to me now when I look at it, and I can understand why people would get the wrong idea. But we weren't willing to shy away from these images that we felt were already being projected onto us already. And that was something that Karen LeCoq was doing in 1970. Who knew? If Coca-Cola was going to get to have good slogans, I wanted punk rock, radical feminism, based on ending oppression of all people, to have its slogans too. So we came up with Revolution, Girl Style Now. And this was our second zine, Bikini Kill Girl Power. This was the first time this phrase was actually used in print. Not to brag. It was really weird to see this phrase that was on the cover of our fanzine become Spice Girls and random t-shirts and you go, like, you know what I mean, like bumper sticker or whatever. And the thing that happened in our punk rock scene, which was growing and growing, and there was much more participation by the time our second fanzine happened, was that conversations about the co-optation and about the appropriation took over and really made it so people weren't having productive discussions about homophobia and race and class anymore. We were all talking about appropriation. And when I look back on it, I see how conversations about people getting ripped off or who's copying somebody else or who's making money off of this. They're conversations we need to have, but I think we need to have them for 45 minutes and then move on. And in our case, in our kind of punk rock scene, it just languished and languished and languished, and I think it was one of the reasons why things stopped moving forward. We went around to shows with a clipboard, and we got people's phone numbers, and we said, is anybody interested in coming to all-girl meetings? And some people signed up, and then we called them, and we all met at a punk house, and we just started talking. And it later became called Riot Girl, and became kind of a group, and it spread like wildfire all around the country, and then to the UK and Malaysia and China. This was from Riot Girl Norman, Oklahoma. It lasted till 1998. They met in a library. This was Riot Girl Press. There were several Riot Girl presses, and it was basically girls Xeroxing each other's fanzines and getting them out into the world. And this is my favorite thing that I own. It's actually in the archive now, but it is 4 pages, typewritten, and all of them are different Riot Girl groups, and this was from the 90s. This is how many groups existed. And we didn't have the internet. We did everything through the mail. And when I think about that, and I think about people today, how much we could do, just one person giving another person permission, and then it's spreading and spreading, it makes me pretty excited. It makes me like the internet more than I sometimes do. Our whole thing about being in a band was trying to create feminist community through what we were doing. And when all of a sudden, if you're an artist or an activist in whatever field, you start getting set apart from the people who you most need to be kind of activated with you, it's a really complicated situation. It's a really complicated situation. And it ended up getting really hard to be the girl from Bikini Kill, or the feminazi from Bikini Kill, the man-hater from Bikini Kill. Everybody, I was either not feminist enough, not the right kind of feminist, too feminist, a sellout, they don't like your music, that you can't wear lipstick, da-da-da-da-da. There are so many expectations, and I also, as an artist, felt like I had to try to write a feminist anthem every time I sat down to write a song. And I just wanted to write some love songs, because I was really in love with someone. And I wanted to start sampling and making electronic music, because I was really bored with like the 3-chord punk rock thing. So I started a new band by myself with nobody else in it, so I could be a total control freak. And it was called Julie Ruin, and I also went back and read a bunch of second wave feminist stuff, because I thought I knew it all, but I didn't really know anything. And what I realized was that feminists in the 70s who got famous for their writing or their activism, or Gloria Steinem, how famous she got, they all took an enormous amount of shit, and they had really interesting ways that they navigated their way through it. And so I just poured through it and said, hey, again, the same way I found out that sexism wasn't my own personal affliction, I also realized being a community builder who gets set off from your community was also not my own personal affliction. And I was able to kind of work through it. The other thing that was happening when we first started in 1999 was that band NSYNC was on TV all the time. And I remember watching an NSYNC performance, and they had costumes, and they had video behind them, and they were doing dances, and I was like, I want that. And then I was like, you can't have that. You're an underground punk rock feminist artist. People are totally going to be totally pissed if you do that. And then I said, that's exactly what I should do then. And we made all the beats, we did all the production ourselves, and it was on the backing tracks, and then we would play a little bit of guitar or clave or keyboard or whatever over it. And part of the idea was we were thinking about notions of authenticity and how people are like, that's fake, that's real, that's fake, that's real. And when you're a woman in a band, there's this whole idea that before you can even step on the stage, you better know how to play guitar like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Because you are going to get so harshly criticized. The thing I realized early on is that it doesn't matter if you play like Stevie Ray Vaughan. You're still going to get harshly criticized, so you might as well just do whatever the fuck you want. And I wanted to be in a band that was a feminist version of NSYNC, and so that's what I did. And I really hope that other girls and women and men who are interested in feminism can also realize that it belongs to all of us. and that we can turn it into something that makes sense to us. It doesn't have to be all one thing. Like, your feminism doesn't have to be my feminism, and my feminism doesn't have to be your feminism. I haven't played a show in like 5 years, and during that time, these girls got really interested in what we were doing back in the 90s, and they started putting together these concerts and stuff where they are playing covers of our songs and songs by other female-fronted bands. And on top of it, they started this thing called the International Girl Gang Underground. And they just put out this fanzine. I just got it last week. And it has sections like histories and critiques. But what they're doing is they're looking through the stuff that we did, and they're analyzing it, and they're saying what they think sucks about it and what they think is cool. And they're trying to take over what we did and make it make sense to them. And that just makes me feel, even when they say I'm a jerk, it makes me feel totally loved and respected to not just have people, you know, collect the CDs or stickers or something like that, but to actually participate in the work and take it into the future and make it something much better.
I do see a lot of women in bands who are wearing their, their influences on their sleeves, and the influences are other female musicians, and I find that really, really exciting. That you have a band like the Youngbloods that were completely influenced by the Raincoats, and you can hear it in their music, but they've made it into something new. And to me, that's a really exciting idea, because there was a time period, there's been a lot of time periods, where you wanted to be like, I wasn't influenced by any women. And I don't play with other women, and I don't want to share a stage with other women. So it's really exciting for me to see these young female bands starting up who are like saying, oh, these are the people that influenced me, and they're almost all other women. That's the thing why I'm pushing this Joe Freeman article on people, is that it really helped me to see if like productive, critique is when people give you an option of how you can get better at something. But if people just straight up say you suck, you can't do anything about that. And if that's the kind of messaging that you're getting from people, you just have to like stay strong and be like, I don't care what you say. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for staying.